big story that happened this weekend, the Trump assassination, right? We all know.
Attempt?
Yeah, attempt. Damn. I might have. Okay,
Yeah.
let me not say nothing. Anyway, yeah. Anyways, the attempt, the assassination attempt by 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crook, right? Now, this was a guy that was deeply troubled, obviously, right? Deeply troubled, and a lot of the people that knew him and his classmates were saying that, you know, he was kind of like very like low key, you know, he kept to himself, he was kind of weird. So it's not anything that they were so surprised at. But it was really crazy because actually, you know, Donald Trump had this rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, and, you know, he was out there, and just a few minutes into his speech, we had gunshots that just rang out, and obviously he was, you know, hit in the air. You know, it was a close call. Secret Service came and actually covered him and protected him. Unfortunately, we did have a man who lost his life by jumping in and obviously, you know, shielding his family. And unfortunately, he lost his life. And two other people was left in critical condition. So it's a very sad day when you see that something like this happens in the world. And, you know, a lot of people, they don't know the real reason behind why this happened. But obviously, a lot of people saying this is politically driven, which is very sad. And, you know, as these things always happen, a lot of people are coming out now and they're blaming President Biden for this assassination attempt. And, you know, a lot of the Republican lawmakers said that because of this quote that I'm going to read from Biden said that I have one job, and that's to beat Donald Trump. I'm absolutely certain I'm the best person to be able to do that. So we are done talking about the debate, which he did horribly in, and it's time to put Trump in a bullseye. Okay. Now, Republican lawmakers are saying that Biden incited this, and this is the reason why there is an assassination attempt on Trump's life. And then obviously a lot of the Democrats are saying that no, it's the Republicans, and, you know, the rhetoric that Donald Trump has used so many times in the past years, and even mocking when Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked in his own home, saying that, you know, she had a wall around her house, and, you know, the wall didn't even protect, you know, Nancy Pelosi's husband. So, you know, and a lot of the rhetoric that the Republicans have been making. So I guess my question to you is this tragedy that happened where someone lost their life and a former president was attempted to be assassinated that day. Who do you think is at fault here in this assassination attempt? Do you think it's Biden? Do you think it's the Republicans? Do you think it's the Secret Service who didn't do their due diligence in doing their job and, you know, marking off this area? Because the young man who's now killed, obviously, who attempted to kill him, Thomas Matthew Crook, he should have kind of just made sure that you know, he didn't get up on that thing. So whose fault do you think this is?
Well, I think there's enough blame to go around. A lot of folks are complicit in this. Now, that isn't to say from a conspiratory standpoint that people planned this, but I mean, they are complicit from the standpoint of fanning the flames, right? Where some of the rhetoric that you mentioned is normal. There was a time where there was some things you wouldn't say or step too far, that it was okay that this person was your opponent, but we've gone into a space now where the person on the other side is your enemy, which is not what that is. Ideally, you want to say, hey, on both sides of this, they are Americans who love this country, but have a different philosophy, if you will, in terms of how they want to see the country run. And that's it. That's all it should be. But I think there is this divisiveness that has developed, and there's this erosion has taken place, which is really kind of ramped up to where it's like, it's something that it feels incredibly volatile, right? So you get this Thomas Crooks, and so maybe folks want to wave the flag and say, oh, there was some mental health issues, whatever.
Yeah.
Right, okay. I cannot accurately find the words to describe just how troubling this is to me. The idea that someone would target a presidential candidate and try to kill this person because you don't like that person's position. This country is set up in a way that you don't like someone, then you and like-minded folks like yourself vote. And then the majority of the votes go to the person, or that person wins. If your candidate didn't win, well, then you know what? Try harder next time.
Right.
That's it. That's the way it should be done. But folks seem to take this different position where we're caught up in, more of what people, maybe some of what candidates say as opposed to their position and their policy. It's this cult of personality. It's funny, Jay. So I'll have these conversations sometimes with folks, and I don't care what side you're on. I'm just kind of surprised, if you will, for lack of a better word, at the level of this fake investment that they have in the presidency from a political standpoint, but can't always necessarily articulate what that policy is or the platform that presidential candidate has. Moreover, I'll ask them at times, to which they don't know, well, what district do you live in? They don't know the district they live in. They don't know their representation.
Right.
The school boards, which are positions that are voted on, although your children are in those schools, you don't know those. You complain about treatment of police and who's getting arrested, but that district attorney in your county that was voted on, you don't know who that person is. You don't know who any of these folks are. And I would surmise that those folks are more impactful to your day-to-day lives, to you and your family.
Right.
Yet you've got this position and this hardcore stance about something that's happening in Washington, D.C., in which a policy, by the time it filtered down to you, you won't even feel it.
Yeah.
In most cases, you don't even feel it. But you got this level of investment to where there's this visceral hate for it.
Yeah.
Don't hit me with that about how much you hate a candidate on either side. Again, I'm not taking position on either side. If you can't even speak about the fundamentals or the folks who are closest to you that affect your day-to-day life, then to me, you're just a poser. So anyway, I think it's horrible, and hopefully there's a brighter day, and there's a moment now that this took place where we can all at least kind of come together a bit. You brought up Nancy Pelosi's husband, 2018. Was it Scalise?
Scalise on the baseball field.
Right. That was fun.
Right.
Like, and
Sandy
so you've got candidates and people in representation from both political parties, right? It's happening on both parties, man. So there's no winners and losers. I don't want to see anyone from the red side or the blue side finger wagging one side or the other, because as I said, both sides are complicit, and we just need to make your vote count, and that's that.
I guess the thing that bothers me, to me, it's really, it's not a political thing to me. I guess what really bothered me, what I kept hearing was about, political violence is not acceptable. And when I hear things like this, and I think, no human being should lose their lives at the hands of gun violence, right? And, but I feel there's a bigger deal being made about this because it's a former president of the United States. I feel like we heard more about that than even the gentleman who was killed and lost his life.
Was it Corey Capitore?
Right. And I believe, when you have things that happen like Sandy Hook and, so many people like you and me, just regular people who lose their lives at the hands of gun violence. And you hear I always talk about that, and it always bothers me. And I just feel like they're talking about we can't have political violence. And what happened to all the other violence and innocent people that lost their lives at gun? Like, and nothing is ever done about that. There's no reason why a 20-year-old, I mean, he got the gun legally, okay? But I just don't see there's a reason why anybody should be walking around and should have AK-17 or whatever, something like that. Like, I just don't believe in that. And this is why, and it will never stop. And when Steve Scalise was shot all the politicians were shot on that baseball field back in 2018, and when Sandy Hook happened, I knew that it would never happen. Like, gun violence will never, ever, ever happen, and it will never stop happening, right? And that's just a problem to me. So I guess I just don't like this whole thing about political violence. Like, politicians are more important than you and I.
Well, yeah, you and I have talked about this before, and we disagree on the idea of gun ownership. As a gun, my owner, fine with that. You and I disagree on that because I listen. I know folks that own. There's no staking out on top of a rooftop, peering through a scope at a presidential candidate. That's not in my future. There's no intentions or anything like that.
Not in your future,
right.
Not in my future, but definitely in other people's future, unfortunately.
But the mass majority of us, the millions of us, right, that is not the case. There are some bad actors, and we should not change our entire lifestyle and our way of living just because of a small minority. What I would say, though, about the comment that you made about political violence, I don't think it's an attempt to disregard violence in other aspects of our lives. It's everywhere, and I'm with you on that. It's way too much, more so than we can even possibly comprehend. But political violence is the story of the moment, and so we look at it.
Banning guns would help.
Looking at it through that lens, that's what we're talking about.
Right.
Listen, a former president and presidential candidate. There was an assassination attempt.
Right.
So we're going to talk about it, and the context in and around that is political violence. So I don't have any issue with it. It was, we don't know. I don't think we know yet, but it was. It feels politically motivated.
Which is weird because he was a Republican.
Right.
He's 20 years old, so it's kind of.
Yeah, but there's layers to it, right?
Yeah.
So there's layers to it, and if you follow this, you know that there's a bit of a divide amongst the Republicans, and where there are different
verticals. There's MAGAs and the Republicans. They're different.
Right. No different than listen. A handful of years ago, it was the Bernie Sanders Democrats, right? Like versus those things kind of happen. Think back to when Hillary and Barack, right, were jockeying for the nomination. Those things become that way, and I get it. I don't have a problem with anyone getting passionate about it. It's politics. It affects our lives. So the passion, it's okay, but we need to be able to channel that and be able to work on it and understand what that is without it resulting to violence and some of the rhetoric and things that we say. I just think it's horrible, and I think about Corey, this gentleman, like he didn't sign up for that.
Right.
Like he just went there to attend a rally,
right?
And see, he's shielding his wife and daughter. He's a firefighter from a different state, and is there, and he gets shot and killed. In addition to some other folks, as I said before, it's a disgusting story. It's one that we need to cover and we need to talk about, but it pulls at the heartstrings, man.
But I do think that our politicians, and Trump has done this a lot in terms of inciting people to do back on January 6th, people follow these words of people. I know they're blaming Biden for this. Obviously, they're going to do that. But, Trump has said a lot of things. And when you are in a position of power, these are just things that you just don't do, right? It just hurts me when you see a leader like that, when people hold on to every single word a former president speaks like that. At that time, during the insurrection, obviously he was president. things like this are going to happen. So I think Trump and all candidates, Biden, whatever, all politicians, they really have to be more careful with the words that they use, right? Because there are a lot of mentally ill people out there that's going to listen to them, that's going to follow them. And I think they have to be really more responsible with the words that they say. And Trump has been very guilty about saying things that are just not right and just insightful.
Well, like I said at the top of this, I think both sides are complicit. Yep. Trump has said some things. Biden has said things. Those respective men and women in their respective parties have said things. So you're right. No one's innocent in this. Mm-hmm. Conversely, I'm not blaming anyone other than Thomas Crooks for this violent act.
Right.
But I do think, right, like there is a part or role that folks play. Listen, we don't have nearly the platform or the the celebrity that a Donald Trump has.
Right.
But yet and still, I know the power of this microphone that we have, right? We see our letters, people approach us. So we've got to be conscious about the things that we say. And, it's one thing to give opinions. It's another thing to speak in terms of CTAs, right? Creating a call to action.
Right.
Because I don't think everyone that responds to it, Jay, is mentally ill. Right? I think there were just some sane people.
Bad apples, right?
Right. Or just people that are susceptible or open to interpreting your words, right?
Yeah.
Like, you go back to years ago when all of those folks followed, like, you think you want to say all those folks that follow, say, David Koresh or Jim Jones, and say they're mentally ill? No, of course not. Right? I don't believe that. But I do think that people can be persuaded or talked into doing something. And it doesn't mean that they're all ill. So we have to be careful about that.
You do.
So maybe if this is the thing that comes out of it, then I won't go so far as to say it was worth it, because
we're hoping that it unifies.
Right.
We're hoping.
But hopefully it does unify and allows us to all to just kind of turn it down just a little bit. And if your candidate, regardless of the side that you're on, has a platform that's representing a group of people, and they lose, well, then get a different candidate or support a different policy or position, but leave the violence out of it. Just leave the violence out of it.
Well, of course, there's a lot of people talking about this might be a conspiracy. Oh yeah, there's people talking a conspiracy that Donald Trump might have set this up.
Yeah, well, those people are idiots, though.
Right. That's their opinion.
Right. Those people are idiots, and I have no problem saying it.
Right.
Right. Like I saw some of the things online. I don't want to give that nonsense oxygen, but right, it's one thing to kind of start saying stuff like that, and listen, I'm not surprised. I don't like it, but I'm not surprised. It's just what people do. People, as I said, those who are talking along those lines are idiots. That's my opinion. They're absolute idiots. And why don't we, before you hit the send button or type something up and hit send, why don't we acknowledge the folks who actually lost their lives, right? While you're over there fanning flames about conspiracy theories and so someone died.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone died. Other people were critically injured. Why don't you focus on that a little bit?
Right. And pray for their family.
Yeah.
Hope it's well. And it's really scary to me, though, because, you think about, you have the Secret Service there, and that they didn't, take the precautionary measures to guard that rooftop.
Listen.
That's really scary. You think, that's why people say, like, whose fault really is it? Like, and they're already blaming each other. Like, it's really crazy.
Listen,
something like this could have happened.
Yeah, listen, recent history, I mean, we can do a whole segment on the Secret Service. Over the past handful of years, the things that have been happening with the Secret Service or what they haven't done.
Right.
I suspect that is a very difficult and hard job to do.
Yeah.
But just, if you don't believe me, or if you don't know, if you're not, you don't know all of the things that have been happening with the Secret Service, or things where they interacted with, where people have breached the White House. I'm not even talking about January 6th, where folks have run through helicopters landing on the lawn. Like, no one gets shot.
Right.
Like, no one's doing anything from that standpoint, right? And so who knows? Who the heck knows? Well, and it's its own special police department, too.
Right.
Has its own, like, it's not like they're pulling people from local or FBI or local police or something. It's its own kind of law enforcement arm. And I would just as a citizen would be interested to understand what their points of escalation are and what protocol is, because I swear, like, are those prop guns? Are they props or something like that? Like, are they starter pistols?
Right.
Like, I mean, like, damn, like somebody, like, kill somebody.
It's crazy. I will say that I think they did not do a good job prior, because I think that should have been roped off and that should have been guarded, right? But initially, after that first shot came, I think they did a fantastic job, because they took him down immediately afterwards. Because Lord knows if they didn't, he would have shot up. He would have kept shooting, and a lot more people would have lost their lives. Right. And President Trump was lucky, because he said he just turned his head at the right time to read something. And he said if he didn't turn his head to the right at that time, if he kept it straight, it probably would have hit him right there in his head, and he would have been dead. So he was extremely lucky, and I'm happy that he's alive. I'm happy, for him and his family.
And the last thing I'll just say, so the other thing is, despite all of what this person, Thomas Crooks, did, he actually accomplished the complete opposite. Well, it stands to see how the outcome will be. But I don't know if there's been any one thing more galvanizing to the Trump campaign than a botched assassination attempt.
He's a hero now.
Right, he's absolutely a hero. And Donald Trump, always, media savvy he is, fist up in the air. Fight on. Like, it's an iconic poster already.
I think part of him loves it. I don't know. I mean,
listen, they said he was at the hospital making jokes and stuff about it.
Absolutely.
I think once you come down off of that and realize that you're safe and everything, absolutely.
Immediately right after he was pumping his fist in the air. Fight.
Absolutely. So. No, he's you might as well, like, Joe, start packing your things up. Right?
Sorry,
like,
Joe. This is
take your rubber plant.
His ticket.
Grab your paperweight. You might as well start filling up that box. Don't even wait till January 20th, man.
He needs a miracle at this point.